Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. They call him Nick Wright. Greg Jennings is joining us this morning.
Good to see you.
What is going on, guys?
It's a great morning.
It's a great morning.
Great morning.
To have a great morning. And we got some great football to preview today, but we've got to start with some great basketball to review after last night. Best team in the East, the Boston Celtics, facing the Clippers. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard making their debut as a tandem. Got going early. Kawhi finds PG, who hits the three. Paul George at 25. Just over 3 minutes left. Kawhi drives, throws it down on Daniel Tice. 2 of his 17 on the night. All right, 15 seconds to go in regulation. Celtics down by 3. Jason Tatum, and that's good for 3. We're tied at 97. This one goes to overtime. In OT, under 2 ticks to go. Celtics down 3. Kemba's shot is blocked by Kawhi. Clippers hold on to win 107-104. So the big duo didn't dominate, but they got the win. Here's Paul George after the game.
I thought it was good. You know, I thought defensively that came natural, that came easy, and then offensively, I thought we were great. I thought we are still trying to get in sync with everybody else. Great thing about myself and Kawhi, you know, it doesn't matter. We're gonna play basketball. We're gonna try to make the right plays and play off one another and just keep the game flowing. So. I thought in that aspect, we were good.
A lot of storylines in this one, but of course all eyes were on Kawhi and Paul George, who were playing their first game together.
Yep.
They haven't had much practice together at all. Before we get to how they looked last night, are these two the best duo in the NBA right now?
At full strength, at their best, if you're going to get a full strength Kawhi Leonard and a full strength Paul George, I still don't think that's the best duo in basketball. I think it's LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and I think Harden and Russ, if Russ can get back to anywhere close to pre-Rocket Russ, they would be in the conversation as well. But right now, with whatever's going on with Kawhi Leonard, and I don't know what's going on with Kawhi Leonard, to me it's not even a discussion. You can't have the reason they would be in the discussion for the best duo in basketball is if you have 2 top 10 players in the league. And where is Kawhi Leonard right now when he plays? Forget the fact that he hadn't played since last Wednesday. In the month of November, he missed the game before Halloween, then he played on Halloween, and he was sensational. He scored 38 points. The month of November, he hasn't had a single game where he has shot better than 42% from the field. Last night was a game where he seemed totally out of gas by the 4th quarter. They had limited his minutes all through the first 3 quarters. Now, they didn't expect the overtime, obviously, but even with the 5 minutes overtime, he only played 37 minutes, which means played 32 in the first 4 quarters. And in the 4th quarter in overtime, he was what? 4 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 of 7 from the field. He did make the block at the very end of the game, which was good because the 2 previous possessions, he fell asleep on defense and Tatum got a dunk to cut it to 3, and then he let Marcus Smart essentially steal the ball from him on the sideline. I don't know what's going on with the reigning Finals MVP. He didn't look right last night. He clearly isn't right because he missed 3 consecutive basketball games. Not just load management, but something is going on with his lower body ailments.
They're calling he had some leg contusion or something, but they are very vague with what they're saying. And for 3 years now,
there's been vagaries surrounding the health of Kawhi Leonard. But as excellent as Paul George is, and even if you say, well, in the playoffs, Kawhi is going to be fine, but then you have to realize in the playoffs, that's when historically Paul George's play has dropped off from what he is in the regular season. So no, that's a very long way to say no.
Not the best duo in the league.
To me, they're not right now even close to the best duo in the city of Los Angeles, Greg.
I'm with you. Obviously, the duo that everyone wants to say is the best duo, or I'm going to speak for me, is LeBron and Anthony Davis. However, this question is so thought-provoking because it's like you mentioned, the potential that Kawhi Leonard has if he is fully healthy and we see him become the Kawhi Leonard that we know he's capable of doing. We saw it in the finals. We saw it in that playoff run last year. This duo can be lights out, and they are, because they go both ways. They play on the offensive end, and then we saw last night what they provided defensively. Like, they are lethal defensively as wing players, but I just don't see them matching up with a guy like Anthony Davis, who, if he played his natural position of 4 and they went just 2-on-2, forget all other 3 guys, just 2-on-2, it's LeBron and Anthony Davis, no questions.
Well, and the reason, and to me, if we, going into the year, you looked at the best player on the Lakers is LeBron, the best player on the Lakers, or the Clippers is Kawhi, and then Paul George and Anthony Davis is second best right now. You got a major problem if you're the Clippers, because right now the Lakers' second best guy, Anthony Davis, is playing better, way better than your best guy is supposed to be. So if this were a 2-on-2 pickup, the first 2 picks would be LeBron and Anthony Davis. And so before you got to, and right now, and again, maybe he is hurt. And I have to acknowledge that the only reason you'd miss 3 games in November in a row is if you are hurt. And so I have to bake that into it to a degree. But right now, Kawhi is the 4th best player in the city of Los Angeles. I got crap last week for saying after they lost to Harden, he was the 4th best player in the NBA. He's shooting 35% this month in the limited games he has played. Now, Paul George is reminding everyone why he was 3rd in the MVP balloting, 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year balloting last year, that he was that level of player all last season. He came out absolutely gangbusters his first couple games without Kawhi Leonard, and he was good, not great. He was good last night against a very good Celtics defense, but something's off with the reigning Finals MVP, and that question has to be answered before the Clippers are discussed as not only a championship favorite, but as you asked, the best duo in basketball.
I don't think we're going to figure out exactly what's going on with Kawhi Leonard. We haven't known what's going on with Kawhi Leonard since he had a quad issue when he played for the Spurs. But these two together were supposed to be battling what's going on in Brooklyn, what's going on with the Lakers as the best duo. We didn't get much of a sample size last night. It's only been 1 game. If Kawhi can play more, could they together be 2 of the best, the tandems in the league?
They could be one of the best tandems in the league. I still don't think they trump LeBron and Anthony Davis. And what makes them so intriguing, and I know we're talking about Kawhi and his what ifs, but let's focus on Paul George. Paul George is a special basketball player.
And we've seen it already.
And we know what his potential is. He's been the #1 option in Indiana. Then he went over to OKC, played a role that had him #2, but kind of then submerging as the #1 option. So his ability to adapt to stars around him and still get his and be effective on both ends of the floor, it's not many players can do that. And you can't ask many star players to do what Paul George has been able to do his last few years.
Listen, Paul George is a superstar and Kawhi's bona fides are well established. Last night, though, it was Lou Williams and Pat Beverly that saved him. It was Lou Williams and Pat Beverly that scored, 14 of their 20 points in clutch time in the 4th quarter or in overtime. And it was, you saw, and Paul George was the best Clipper last night, but you saw him get crossed to the ground by Jason Tatum right before we got to overtime. And then Pat Beverly, to his credit, a guy who's known for the defensive end, not the offensive end, hit 2 enormous threes. Lou Williams hit a 3 to put him up late in the 4th quarter. And so, the supporting cast of the Clippers is a good one. Not a great one, but a good one, particularly those 2 guys plus Montrezl Harrell. But when we're talking about the best duos right now, until the Kawhi Leonard we saw the first 2 weeks of the season and the Kawhi Leonard we saw in the playoffs reemerges, Harden and Russ are a better duo. Giannis and Chris Middleton are a better duo. Hell, the way my adult Slovenian son Luka Doncic is playing, Luka plus whomever you want to call the second best Maverick is a better duo at the moment, because what is going on with Kawhi Leonard? He played 22 minutes through the first 3 quarters last night so he could have that 4th quarter surge that he was doing early in the year. From the 4th quarter and overtime, he's 2 of 7 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3, and you could not feel his impact on the game until, to his credit, he got the block in the corner on the final shot of the game. Something's off with him. And even if you've been skeptical of Kawhi as the best player in basketball as I've been, no one's been skeptical that he's a top 5 player in the league. And since Halloween, he has looked nothing like it in the rare times he's actually played.
Well, so much for my third question. Is this a potential finals preview? We'll have to hold up on that.
Did you know that as many as 7 out of 10 adults wished they played a musical instrument? Unfortunately, many never do because they think it's either too late for them to start or too expensive. Musician is an online music education platform rethinking the way people learn music. It's the fun, easy, and affordable way to learn guitar, piano, bass, ukulele, or even learn to sing. Just download the app to your desktop, tablet, or phone and start playing. Musician is perfect whether you're just starting out or have been playing for years. Enjoy thousands of popular songs, expertly crafted lessons and exercises across dozens of genres. Compared to private lessons, Musician is more affordable, lets you learn on your own schedule. You'll get bite-sized lessons, easy to follow instructions, and exercises tailored to your goals. Using Musician to learn an instrument like guitar or piano is much better than trying to teach yourself. So, if you've been wanting to learn an instrument or simply want some help getting back to playing, check out Musician. You can get an extended 14-day free trial of their premium package at musician.com/play. That's unlimited lessons and unlimited songs on as many instruments as you want for 2 whole weeks. Just go to musician.com/play to start your free trial today. That's YOUSICIAN.com/play.
Cowboys and Patriots this Sunday on Fox. Both teams can use this game to get a better sense of who they are. And while the two quarterbacks are seemingly trending in opposite directions, Dak named NFC Offensive Player of the Week, Brady having his share of struggles, Jason Garrett knows Brady is still the GOAT.
He's arguably the greatest player that ever walked. You think about his level of excellence over the last 20 years. I don't think it's comparable to anybody. The impact he's had on teams, obviously how they've won different ways, how they've won with different people. I think his greatest trait is his mental toughness. It seems regardless of what circumstance he's in, he always finds a way to be his best and get the job done and help the guys around him to get their job done. And he and Coach Belichick are an unbelievable combination, the best that ever walked in this league.
Yes, but does Tom Brady still instill that type of fear in opponents today as we approach this Sunday?
I think the audience might be a little surprised by what I'm about to say here, but absolutely unequivocally, yes. Teams should still fear Brady. I know he's been bad this year. It's the worst year he's had in at least 15 years, maybe the worst year since his rookie season. And the numbers are ugly, and they're particularly ugly when they're not only compared to his career, but to his contemporaries in the league right now. Because what a 90 passer rating in 2019 is very different than a 90 passer rating in 2009 or in 2004 because of the passing revolution. And the biggest weakness for the New England Patriots right now is their passing attack and is the lack of high potency offense. But this is where, and I've said many times, just because you're the GOAT doesn't mean you're the GOAT every single year. Just because you're the greatest ever doesn't mean you are the greatest currently. But this is where you do get that greatest of all time extra credit, at least to me. When I'm watching the Patriots, if I've bet against the Patriots, if I'm rooting against the Patriots, no matter how poorly Brady has played, if they are on the field down less than a score, it's terrifying because you have nothing but memories of this guy for 20 years coming through in those moments. So and Jason Garrett's got to be afraid of this game for a lot of reasons. One is for his own job security part of it. But where I can look at the numbers and fairly analyze Brady the way he's fairly analyzing himself. He and the passing offense have been substandard all year long, whether that's offensive line, receivers, quarterback, player, all of the above, Greg, and it probably is all of the above. Everyone owns a little bit in this team not having more punch in their offense. But still, he's on a short list of quarterbacks that if it's a 4-point game in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left, who do you not want to have the ball? No matter how many quarterbacks are ranked above him, there's only 2 or 3 in football that you would feel more confident in that situation, even this season. At least for me, when I'm watching the Patriots, maybe too much of that is the ghosts of Christmas and Tom Brady's past, but it still is that relevant in my mind's eye, and I think that's what Jason Garrett's talking about.
Okay, so before I answer the question, I'm going to address Jason Garrett in his presser. I've always hated when coaches lather on and massage your opponent. I get it, you're going to pay them respect, but come on. Like, we all know how great Tom Brady is. For his guys to hear him say all these things about Tom Brady, it's like, look, coach, you're not saying that to us. You can say he's great, he's been great, he and Belichick have done some special things, and just move on from there. You don't have to keep listing everything. I don't like when coaches do that. I just had to share that. Now, to answer your question, no. No, I agree with everything you said. But the reason why Tom Brady shouldn't put fear in anyone is because of the pieces that he lacks around him. The lack of playmakers that he has. Edelman being the only guy that he can truly rely on. Outside of that, Philip Dorsett, Mohamed Sanu, I like these guys, but I'm not threatened by them. And so ultimately, it falls on Brady to say he can't do the same things that he would do had he been younger, or if he were younger, and if he were doing it with Randy Mosses or Antonio Brown.
Greg, who did he have last year besides Gronk occasionally in the lineup? That it was such a different offense that he had last year that they marched their way to the Super Bowl.
I guess what I'm saying is he's going to always be Brady. To your point, in the waning moments of the game, does he strike fear in you? Yes, because of exactly what you're talking about. Historically, we replay every game-winning drive, or the one that has haunted us the most, about Tom Brady. And that's what we don't want to happen and don't want to see in that moment. So yes, you're going to be on the sideline standing as a player like, anxious. Okay, here he goes again. Come on, defense, stop him, because you know what he's capable of. But without the supporting guys, he can't do it the way he once did.
It's the opposite feeling that you get if your team's playing Phillip Rivers, where you're like, well, we might be okay because he might just give it to us. And so no matter what the history says there. But Jenna, to quote a line from misquote a line from one of your favorite shows, you just yada the Gronk. This is the guy who on a per game basis, I would argue, is the most impactful tight end ever.
Yes.
And that's with respect to Shannon and Tony, who did it far longer. And I know how great those players were. But Gronk, even last year, a lesser version of himself. In the overtime against Kansas City, Gronk showed up, and on the only touchdown drive of the Super Bowl, Gronk showed up. But the other thing that was different last year is, last year Tom Brady had two things to rely on, aside from Rob Gronkowski, he does not have this year. One is a far better offensive line, and the other is a far better running game, to where teams had to sell out against the Patriot run and allow Tom Brady those better looks, which he could then take advantage of. Now, I just want to be clear on this, though. Despite all that, he still scares me. As a guy who, I don't want to say I root against the Patriots, but I find myself betting against them a lot. It cost me a lot of money over the years. And so in those instances, rooting for my bets, you get anxious if Brady has a chance to drive the field and win the game, no matter how poorly he's played up to that point.
But you're assuming that between these two teams, you're going to get to the point where they are down to one final drive. I don't even know if the Patriots can hold with the Cowboys to the point where all it's going to be is one final drive for Tom Brady.
Well, I think the Pats are going to win. I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys win. I would be shocked if the Cowboys blow them out. If the Cowboys take a game where they're basically a touchdown dog and Brady, the Pats are down so much late that it doesn't matter if Brady drives the field late. The question for this football game is going to be, how much can the Cowboys defense create pressure on Brady? Because that's, Greg, where he's been, no matter the GOAT stuff, where he's been very poor all year long.
And the Cowboys have been inconsistent in creating those pressures, so we'll see what happens.
All right, finally Thursday Night Football serving up a feast tonight on Fox. Texans and Colts, the two teams sit tied atop the AFC South at 6-4. A win could mean the division. A loss could mean the season. Nick, who's got the edge in this matchup?
Well,
Did I put too much drama on it? I felt like it was appropriate.
No, listen, this is one of the best games, the biggest games of the year.
Yeah.
This game, of all the games this weekend, there are higher profile games this weekend, obviously, but none of the games this weekend have a bigger impact on this year's playoff picture than this one. None of the games this weekend will have a bigger impact on who wins a particular division than this one. And to answer your question, the Texans, at first glance, would appear to have a number of edges in this game. They have the better the better quarterback. They have the healthier team.
You said it right.
You almost said
I know that's your guy.
That is why, I mean, spoiler alert, I'm going to pick the Colts. I picked the Colts to win this division before the year, post Andrew Luck's retirement, not only because I believe in Jacoby Brissett, who made some excellent plays last week in a game that was close early on, and then they ended up blowing out their opponent, but also because the coaching discrepancy between Frank Reich, who I believe is already one of the 6 best coaches in the NFL. I think he has proven it. What he's doing this year without the quarterback they expected to have, dealing with T.Y. Hilton's injury, who might be back tonight, Eric Ebron's injury, who might be back tonight. Now they're going to have to do it without Marlon Mack, who broke his hand at the end of last week's game. What he has done and his situational coaching, which I feel like was a big part of the Eagles' success, their Super Bowl run, was Frank Reich's situational coaching and understanding.
As their offensive coordinator.
I think Doug Peterson gleaned some of that stuff from Frank. That the mismatch between he and Bill O'Brien, who could coach in the NFL for 100 years and will never understand the clock, will never understand challenges, will never understand the most basic things you can do on Sunday or on a Thursday to put your team in a better position to win. I like the Colts. I like the Colts to win this game. I like the Colts to win this division. And it's a shame for the Texans because Deshaun Watson's on his rookie contract and they have a bunch of talent on that team, but they've underachieved up to this point in the season. I think that continues tonight.
Man, this is tough. As much as I do like the Colts, as a player, if I were to put myself in Deshaun Watson's shoes, I'm not having another performance like I did last week.
Sure.
And so in knowing that, and knowing the kind of player he is, and the kind of leader he is, and how he wants to be great for his team and elevate the play of his team, I got to go with the Texans because I just don't think as great of a quarterback for all the reasons you mentioned and all the players that the Colts are missing or potentially will have back, it won't matter to Deshaun Watson. And I know there's so many other players that are going to be playing in this game for the Houston Texans, but he is the key to their success. Defensively, they have what it takes. They just got to put it on the field. Offensively, it's all about Deshaun Watson, and I don't see him having a game like he did last week against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Jenna.
No, I was going to say they got shellacked last week. It's hard to imagine. And Deshaun Watson played arguably his worst game of the season. It's hard to imagine he would have back-to-back games like that.
And Deshaun's never had a bad primetime game. 6 career primetime games, 19 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a 121 rating. When the lights are the brightest, dating back to college, he's at his best. Just, folks, if you haven't been watching the Texans this year, there's going to be some time where you see the red challenge flag on the field, Bill O'Brien screaming at a ref, and you're going to say, wait, what just happened here? And Frank Reich's going to be totally poised, going to be totally fine, and have his team in control. I think that tilts the scales to the Colts.
Big NFC matchup this weekend. Aaron Rodgers and the 8-2 Packers. Jimmy G and the 9-1 Niners. Very well could be an NFC Championship preview. Rodgers knows exactly what he's up against with that stout Niners defense, which is why he also knows Sunday night's matchup will be a good test for his Packers.
This is an important one for us. The way I look at it, we got to beat them once at their place at some point. It'd be nice to do it now, and they're a good football team. Though they've had a great start to the season, very well coached, both sides of the ball, and I think they've taken care of business at home the entire season too. So it's going to be a tough test.
I really hope this one lives up to its billing because this one has historic rivalry baked in it. This one could be a great one, especially where both teams are this season. Packers, Niners, who's got the edge?
And it is an enormous game. We mentioned what the impact Colts-Texans has on the AFC South. This game could determine the 1 seed in the NFC. I mean, this game, the winner of this game will be in the catbird seat for the 1 seed. The loser of this game, all of a sudden, will be in real danger of the 5 seed. of not winning their division, because the Seahawks are nipping at the Niners' heels and the Vikings are nipping at the Packers' heels. So it is an enormous game. I really like the Packers in this game. I like the Packers because they're coming off a bye. I like the Packers because I think they are more comfortable on offense than the 49ers are. I like the Packers because Aaron Rodgers, among the many things he does well, the thing he does as well as anyone in football is he does not throw the ball to the other team. And Jimmy G is going to give you 2 or 3 a game. Now, you got to catch him. He tried to give 7 away against Seattle.
Yes, he did.
He did give a couple away against Arizona, even though that was, aside from those picks, one of the better games he's played. Jimmy G will let you get yourself back into this game unless the Niners are able to just run all over you to where he doesn't have to become a component of it. And I feel like the Niners are a bit of that Jenga tower you've been stacking that looks like it's just about to tip over. 3 weeks ago, they escaped against Arizona. 2 weeks ago, they lost a game they had no business losing to Seattle that they will, I think, regret not taking the tie here pretty shortly. And last week, if you didn't watch the game, you say, oh, they won by 10. They were down that entire game against Arizona, and they were down by 3 points with 30 seconds remaining. It took a lot of chicanery for them to end up winning that game by the final margin of 10. The Niners have this game. They also have road games against Baltimore, New Orleans, and Seattle coming up. And I know Richard Sherman has been saying, y'all didn't believe in us before, don't believe in us now. No problem, Richard. I will continue my lack of belief. The Packers, I believe, are the best team in the NFC. I think they show it this weekend, Greg.
You know, I think the only reason why I'm going to say what I'm about to say is because of the history. And I think the 49ers have the edge only because they're at home. Aaron Rodgers has not played historically well against the 49ers.
Sure.
Again, he's from Cali. He wants to play well in front of his family, his home, all these friends. And it just hasn't really, when he has played well, they either didn't win or then he wouldn't play well, they won. So I just don't see them having the advantage. However, I do think the Packers are going to win. Mm-hmm. I like Aaron Rodgers, everything that he's done this year. And this is what makes this team so special and so great this year. Everything that was said prior to this year, including the things that I've said myself about what he needed to do for this Green Bay Packer team to have success, which is to embrace the change at the head coaching position. He's done everything he's been asked to do and more. Now you give him an Aaron Jones. He has a running game, a player who he can throw to out of the backfield that can break the big run, that he doesn't have to be heroic every single week. Like this team, defensively, if they can stop the run, the Green Bay Packers will win. The advantage comes for the 49ers because they're at home in Kyle Shanahan.
And for a lot of this game got moved to the night slot, and the Niners are so banged up with so many guys that are going to be game time decisions. I read an article yesterday where they think the 3 extra hours between 4 extra hours between what was supposed to be the 4 o'clock kickoff and will be the 8 o'clock kickoff Eastern could actually be the determining factor if a guy like George Kittle can play, and he's obviously critical to what they do. That your point on the way the Niners win this game is Aaron Rodgers is sacked six times, and they don't have to put the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. They can just run down the Green Bay Packers' throat.
The Green Bay Packers just have so many more ways they can win than the Niners do. The Niners win if their defense plays lights out and their offense shows up, which has sort of been their game plan the last couple of weeks. The Packers now with the run game, not having to just rely on Aaron Rodgers, and a defense that's playing really well, seems to almost run circles with options on how they can beat a team like the 49ers.
They do. I mean, and again, it starts with Aaron Rodgers. And I know it sounds crazy because it's always been about Aaron Rodgers, but this year is different because it's not about him just throwing the football. It's about him playing within the system and the scheme that has been put together by Matt LaFleur and having an impact in a role in where he can still be himself. Like, when it comes down to it, 2 minute, Aaron, you do your thing. Even when we go no huddle, if we go no huddle, Aaron, do your thing. Within the plays, Aaron is just been brilliant by not forcing the ball down the field, by not feeling like the pressure is all solely on him, because he knows he has a defense that can get him the ball back and that can stop opponents. But he also has, again, Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield to where he can turn around, hand it off, and rely on a run game, something that he really hasn't had and been afforded over his entire career.
And listen, we both like the Packers in this game. If they win this game, there's only one game the rest of the way after this weekend where they're going to be an underdog. They're staring at a 13-3 type of season, which would be great because it would mean they get a bye, something that's been very rare in the Aaron Rodgers era. I looked up something this morning, and I think the audience will find it shocking because I found it shocking. And I think it speaks to the underachievement, given how great their quarterback is, the Packers have had over the last decade, really since you left the team. Not that you were the key component, but you were a key component. Since Aaron Rodgers, this will shock people. Since Aaron Rodgers has been the quarterback, think about the sustained success of the Green Bay Packers, and then think about the Niners, who had the one window with Jim Harbaugh, Alex Smith, and then Cap. Since Rodgers has been the quarterback of the Packers, the Niners and Packers have the same number of first-round byes in the playoffs, have the same number of NFC Championship games appearances, and the same number of Super Bowl appearances. The San Francisco 49ers have been through half dozen coaches, half dozen quarterbacks. They've had one good window, those 3 years. In those 3 years, they got 2 first-round byes, 3 conference championship game appearances, went to a Super Bowl. In the entire Aaron Rodgers era, the Packers have had 2 first-round byes, been to 3 conference championship games, and been to 1 Super Bowl. Now, they, of course, won their Super Bowl, and the Niners did not, the final play at the end against the Ravens. But if the Packers can't take, I say that, say this, if the Packers can't take advantage of this weekend, of this year, of this opportunity, then you're going to say, well, the Niners went through 4 reinventions in the Aaron Rodgers era and have damn near the same level of success in the playoffs to show for it. And so it's extra critical in my eyes for the Packers to take advantage of the opportunity afforded them tonight, or this weekend, this game, and this season, and I think they will.
Here, first things first, now joined by Fox Sports NBA analyst Sarah Kusta. Good morning,
What's going on, guys?
Sarah.
Good to see you.
Good
How's
to see
everything?
you.
Craig, Jenna?
It's great to see you. You've been all over my Instagram feed, Sarah. You've been a very, very busy, successful.
I hope in a good way.
In a fantastic
way. Try not to inundate people on social media.
No, it's.
I don't see you on Instagram because I'm on Instagram, but you've been all over my League Pass feed, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thanks.
You guys are really doing a great job. It's a heck of a broadcast. You got to talk to him about the court. It's all great.
You're not into it, the new look?
It's just
weird.
so.
No, he's not.
It's weird. It's weird. Everything about the broadcast, the game presentation's great, and then court, I'm like, is my TV's? Look at that nice, bright,
It's super
yellow
dark.
court.
It's
I have no say in that.
Okay, all right,
They don't
that's
really want to
fine.
hear my opinion, but when they do.
Sorry about
When they
that.
I'll put
do,
in my
Sarah will
2
be right
cents.
there. All right, guys, last check, it was November 21st, seemingly far too soon to predict an NBA MVP, unless your pool to choose from includes LeBron James. LeBron has been spectacular in year 17, 25 points per game, leading the league in assists. The King has been so good, he's got Magic Johnson tweeting, and Magic Johnson rarely tweets. Magic wrote, if he continues at this pace, he will definitely be the league MVP this season. No one is playing better than him, and what's scary is his story is still being written. All right, Sarah, is Magic right? LeBron, the MVP right now as we sit here today?
I believe he is. I think that Giannis has been having a monster start to the season. He is certainly in the conversation, but I think at this point, what LeBron has helped the Lakers to do, how well they've been playing, I never would have anticipated, despite the fact that their schedule is favorable to start the season, that they would have had to start and come together so quickly with all the pieces. I also think the numbers for LeBron are, of course, very impressive. What he's helped Anthony Davis become, the way in which he's continued to, just by the eye test, get to that next level defensively of what we used to see in years past. I think that if you're looking at the situation saying, who do I want to have the ball at the end of the game, I want it LeBron James' hands.
Well, and you mentioned what he's helping Anthony Davis do. A totally revamped coaching staff.
Yeah.
A totally revamped roster. The guys who are on this team that predate LeBron James, I think the full list is KCP and Kuzma. I think this is a new team.
Yeah.
And I know Laker fans last year were still a little squeamish on LeBron, like, you're not going to break up our young core. You're not going to do what you did. No, he's going to do all of it.
Yeah.
And he's going to bring in another great player. And then all of a sudden, the team, what has been shocking to me is I thought they'd be really good defensively. I did not think they could be. Well, because I thought
Anthony Davis,
and when they made it clear they wanted to play another center, to play Anthony Davis and a big guy, I thought it would hurt them demonstrably on the offensive end, but they would have so much length that I thought defensively they could be a really good team. But I did not think they could be the number one defense in basketball, and that's what they are. And if you are a top 5 defense in basketball and you have Anthony Davis to go along with the highest IQ offensive player in league history in LeBron James, you're going to be at worst a top 8 offense, and they're right now right outside the top 10, but that's going to tick up. Right now, if it's valuable, of course he's the most valuable player in basketball. If it's outstanding, there's 2 other guys in the conversation, Giannis and Luka.
Yes.
And Luka, and with Luka, his team's winning as well. I mean, they're 9-5, and he will rewrite the record books that LeBron James rewrote as far as youngest to do this, youngest to do that. LeBron has all those records. Luka's coming for him. But right now, I thought what you said at the end is maybe the most important. It's not just at the end of the game. For once again, if you were to ask all 30 GMs, and they had to be honest, and it was anonymous, for this season, you can have any player in the league on your team. Who's the one you would take from another team? All 30 GMs, all 29, aside from the Lakers, they already have him, would say LeBron. And that is the definition of valuable or outstanding, depending on how you want to look at it.
I agree, and I agree with everything Magic Johnson is saying. LeBron James has been lights out, not just offensively. And I know we're talking about their team defense, but the fact that LeBron has decided and made a conscious effort to put in the work and the effort on the defensive end, that has made them really special, because now he's playing the passing lanes. He's actually getting up in the defender's face instead of lagging in the paint and just letting his defender be the one that, okay, you beat us if your team's going to win. He has not decided to do that, and that will propel you on the other end of the ball. And so when you talk about let's talk about last year, like LeBron James and his success early with the Lakers, and then he gets hurt, and then they don't make the playoffs, and he hears all these talks of Kawhi Leonard being better, James Harden being better. He's not even in the conversation of best player in the league anymore. Kevin Durant before he goes down.
Giannis for sure.
Like as players, as a competitor, when you've always been on top, you take that and you fuel yourself with that, and you come out like this. And who better to do it than LeBron James?
And here's the thing. I just got back from a West Coast trip and get a chance to talk to a handful of, whether it's scouts, whether it's some front office people, and you just pick their brains about things happening out there. And the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, the nuances of the game that LeBron has brought to the table for as long as he's been around. He understands time, score, course of the game. When do I need to run a pick and roll and get Dwight involved? When do I need to make sure Kuz gets a wide open 3 from the corner to get going? This guy hasn't touched the ball in a while, so when I'm coming to facilitate the offense, I'm going to make sure to get him involved. We need some buckets. I'm just going to keep it myself. He has such an extraordinary feel for the game, and because of that, when you bring up the new parts, the new pieces, the new coaching staff, that's why they've had so much early season success, because of his gauge on exactly what a team needs when.
If LeBron can keep doing this, keep up this play for the rest of the season, win the MVP in year 17, what would something like that do for his legacy, Nick?
Well, you guys know I obviously believe he's the greatest player of all time. Right now, I would say 20% of the public's with me on that, maybe a little less. It's a minority opinion for sure. You're not part of it. Greg's not part of it. I think everyone has him in the top 3 at worst at this point. But an MVP in year 17, because think about the other things that are going to go along with that this year. He is going to pass Kobe for points this season and move into 3rd on the all-time list. He's going to pass in assists this season Gary Payton, the original Isaiah Thomas, and Chris Paul, and move into 7th on that list. He's going to break a tie with Kareem, Tim Duncan, and Kobe for most All-NBA teams at 15. He will move to 16. He already has the record for most All-NBA first teams. He will further that record, and he will become only the 4th player ever with 5 or more MVPs. Right now, it's Kareem with 6, Bill Russell and Michael Jordan with 5. And so all of that, plus, if I'm going to tease a little bit further, an MVP and a championship, it won't be a minority opinion anymore. I believe it's already undeniable. Folks say 6 for 6, and I think Kareem gets shorted in this discussion. I don't think it should be a 2-person discussion. I think it should be 3. But LeBron's numbers and the year 17 part of this, we've only had one guy ever average more than 23 points per game in year 17. It was Kobe on a mediocre Laker team near the tail end. And Kobe had a really good year that year, and the team was okay but not great. LeBron, if he is still, nobody's ever been close to the best player in basketball in year 17, even coming close to the MVP, much less winning it. It further solidifies that what the eye test tells you. And that guy's the best guy to
how
ever
many
do it.
minutes? How many minutes has he? It's not just year 17.
Oh yeah,
the amount
6th
of
most minutes in NBA history already.
Don't count Melo out because he could have a good.
why you shading Melo?
The only thing he may split some votes with Anthony Davis.
I love it.
Back here, first things first, joined by All-Pro Brian Westbrook. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Hey, it's a happy day in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons hit a corner 3. Everybody is celebrating. It's all smiles.
Yeah, it's a big day.
It's
Woo!
huge. It's
Paraded
huge.
in the streets.
It's about time. It was 172 games.
Might be 172 more before you see it again.
Skeptical.
I'm sorry, you're right. I have to be more positive with
Started
Ben
a new
Simmons.
streak.
That's right.
He's won in a row of games with a 3-pointer.
That's
Let's
right.
see if we can
It's
get
great.
2 in a row.
One over
There you
one.
Go, Jenna.
All right, let's talk about America's Game of the Week. Back to some football. Cowboys, Patriots, Sunday on Fox. According to our friends at Fox Bet, Patriots are 6.5-point favorites over Dallas. Nick Wright, you surprised the Pats are such heavy favorites?
No, this is right to me for a number of reasons. One is the game's in Foxborough. What that tells me is if the game were in Dallas, it'd be about a pick-em. Which feels about right because you would have the 3. I think the Patriots don't get 3 points for being at home. I think they get about 3.5 for being at home, if not 4, because they've been so successful there.
And the weather's going to be a little shaky.
Right, and that's sometimes this part of the year has been part of their success. That Belichick, I remember during Deflategate, made it clear, man. Ask my players about the type of footballs we use at practice. They're wet, they're scuffed, they're bad because they prepare for inclement weather because they're like, well, we're going to be playing in the playoffs and they're going to be home games because we're going to go 13-3. And so, yes, that's a factor in it. The other reason is because the Patriots right now have shown, last week included, an ability to win games when their offense does not play well. And so they obviously can beat you with their defense. They also, the few times this year their defense has been leaky, which is very few, the offense has picked up the slack, at least for a moment. That's what happened against Baltimore. The offense picked up the slack temporarily to get back in that football game and then was unable to do so late. And lastly, and to me this is the biggest reason that I'm confident in the Patriots this weekend, it's not because of their pass defense, not because of home field, it's because of the coaching discrepancy between Bill Belichick and between Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett knows he is coaching for his job this season, not this week, but this season. Bill Belichick also knows that he has the greatest job security of anyone maybe in all of sports. And if it is close, I like the Patriots. And I don't think the Cowboys can blow them out. So for all those reasons, I like New England this week. And I think the line's about right.
Yep.
Well, I think I should like New England as well. And I do. You know, I'm not so sure about their offense, but you got to look at the stats. The stats say that they have won 20 straight home games by a margin of 16.6 points at home. And so that's impressive. They also haven't allowed a red zone touchdown all season long at home. And so those are impressive stats. But when you look at the game and the matchup, you're saying, what are the strengths of the Dallas Cowboys right now? Their strengths are throwing the football with Dak Prescott, which actually matches up well with the strengths of the Patriots defense. Correct. They defend the pass very well. Now, if you want to run the football, which the Dallas Cowboys haven't done very well, that means those old linemen that they have, those older linemen that they have that haven't played well, they have to get in gear and get going. And for the last 2 games, the Cowboys haven't been able to run the ball effectively with Zeke. And so now that's why the line is so big when you talk about this spread, 6.5 points in favor of the Patriots.
You would think that it would be shocking because of what we have all kind of had the eye test of witnessing the way the Patriots offense has looked or the lack thereof. So, yeah, but I'm with the Patriots on this one. I'm not picking against the Patriots anymore this year, period. I don't care who they're playing. I just won't do it because the culture that they have in place there, when you look at their culture, versus the Dallas Cowboys. That plays a huge role. And you talk about the head coach, that's who kind of sets your culture. Your head coach, how is he? What has he brought to the table? What type of winning has he established to set the tone and the culture? And when you look at Jason Garrett, that's non-existent, specifically against the teams that they need to beat. And so when you look at the Patriots, this is what they do week in and week out. They take care of business against the elites, against those who are down at the bottom, and against the average. Because their culture is consistent. We do what we do. We don't worry about our opponent. And so with all the high-flying power that the Dallas Cowboys have, it doesn't put any type of fear in the New England Patriots.
Almost in theory, because the Patriots had a real tough time with Baltimore, who almost manhandled them. And they haven't been playing great against teams with decent units like Buffalo Bills defense. But just break it down for me. If the Patriots are going to be the Cowboys, how are they going to do it? We know what their offense can do, and we know where their run defense is ranked right now.
Here's the most simple version of it. The Patriots get out to a 7-0 lead and never relinquish it. The Patriots have one great offensive drive the whole game, scripted plays, first 15 plays. Dallas gets out to their traditional slow start. And New England, I don't have the number in front of me, but I remember it flashing on the screen a few weeks ago. In Gillette, when leading at halftime over the last decade, they win like 97% of their football games. And so you're right, Jenna, that this Cowboys team will be one of the 3 or 4 best teams the Patriots have played all year long. Patriots played the Bills, struggled with them and won, who's a playoff team right now, played Baltimore and got beat twice by Baltimore to my eye, and then played Philly and scored 17 points but found a way to win that game. Those are the only 3 teams they've played this year that are in the real playoff discussion. But Dallas, on the other hand, has played much more difficult teams. They've just lost all of them. Played New Orleans, scored 3 first-half points. Played Green Bay, we're down 31-3. Played Minnesota, we're down 14-0. You fall down 14-0 New England, it is game over. You have no chance whatsoever in that building in particular. And so I understand your point, which is my skepticism of the Patriots' passing attack, which I just don't know that they need to score 27 points to beat the Dallas Cowboys. I thought they would need to score into the 20s to beat Philly. It's why I picked Philly.
What we talked about.
But I don't know that they are going to have to do that to beat the Cowboys in Foxborough.
If the Dallas Cowboys can't get their running game going. If the Dallas Cowboys can find a way to establish the run game, which they haven't been able to do over the last couple of games against better defenses, when you talk about Minnesota and Detroit, run defenses anyway, then that's going to give the Patriots some problem if they can do that. Now they have to get back to Zeke, being able to run the football, having confidence in that, but not just running downhill football, handing them the football and go. They have to be creative, more closer to what the Baltimore Ravens were. Now, I'm not talking about running with your quarterback, but running plays where you're saying, okay, we're going to offset a guy, we're going to put him in motion, we're going to make the defense think, we're going to make them not be able to just go straight ahead and play you and blow up your football plays. If you are able to do that, make sure the guy's not knowing exactly where the ball is going, like the Baltimore Ravens were able to do, you're able to run against this football team. If you're able to do that consistently, they haven't done it in the last couple weeks.
It's hard to have that much confidence in the Cowboys. They've only beaten 2 teams outside of their division, the Miami Dolphins and then the Lions without Matthew Stafford playing. So we'll see. You guys want to play a little drawing a blank?
Sure, Jenna.
Okay. Starting with the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots, the NFL's highest-powered offense led by Dak and Zeke versus Bill Belichick's top-ranked defense. So, Greg, the X-factor in America's Game of the Week is blank.
Randall Cobb.
Oh.
Randall Cobb. He's had 2 really good back-to-back weeks. We've seen him emerging as one of their go-to guys. Obviously, you're not throwing the ball to Ezekiel Elliott out of the backfield, so Randall Cobb gets more opportunities. He has to step up and make plays. He's been doing it.
I'm going the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. I just talked about it. If they can dominate in the trenches, then they can win this football game. You talked about the Cowboys getting off to an early deficit. If they can start fast with the running game, I think they can win this football game and control it at the line of scrimmage. If you win football games in Foxborough, you got to win at the line of scrimmage. Dallas Cowboys, most important part.
Typically, a quarterback is not an X factor, it's the factor. But given the way Tom Brady's played, I'm going to say Tom Brady. Because if Tom Brady can orchestrate 2 sustained touchdown drives, I don't see how the Patriots can lose this game. See a couple of Tom Brady touchdowns, a few field goals from whoever their field goal kicker is these days. That should be enough given how dominant the Patriots defense has been all year, particularly as you pointed out in that building. I think the Cowboys' only realistic path to victory is pressuring Brady and turning Brady over. So to me, Brady's stat line could be the most indicative of which team won this game.
I don't ever do this, but I'm going to throw a name out there. Isaiah Wynn. I say Isaiah Wynn might be the X factor here. We haven't really seen him, but if he could protect Tom Brady, who knows what Brady might be able to do. All right, to the AFC North now. Nick Chubb has been the bell cow for the Browns. He and Christian McCaffrey are the only players rushing for over 100 yards per game this season. Greg, the most important running back down the stretch, though, is blank.
Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook for the Minnesota Vikings. I would have said Aaron Jones, but Aaron Rodgers can overcome.
It's because you don't believe in Kirk Cousins. That's fine.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And he's been so good running the ball, but as well as catching the ball out of the backfield. And that's a huge part of what they do to sustain drives and continue to move the ball methodically down the field.
Since you went Dalvin Cook, I'm going to have to go Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. I think that offense is great, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers, and he can do a lot of different things. They've needed that run game and the passing, the ability to the running backs out of the backfield to be successful this season. They definitely need Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams to continue to play well in the playoffs.
Similar to your answer, because despite the numbers, I'm still not fully sold on the quarterback, Ezekiel Elliott. If the Cowboys are going to go from 6-4 to win the division with their very tough final 6 games, Zeke's going to have to get back to being Zeke. Now, he was fine up until the last 2 weeks, but the last 2 weeks were big struggles for him as the weather gets bad, as teams start saying, all right, Dak, you've proven it to us. We're going to take one of those guys out of the box. We're not going to leave your receivers in single coverage. Zeke's got to take advantage of it, so I'm going to say Ezekiel.
What else does Dak have to do to prove it?
I don't know, man.
Every single week he's doing it.
What he's got to do, more. A little more.
Just keep winning.
All right, moving on to the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy G face off Sunday night. Garoppolo has thrown one more touchdown than Rodgers, 18-17. He's also thrown 10 picks as opposed to Rodgers' 2. Greg, the most important quarterback down the stretch is blank.
It's Lamar Jackson. He means everything, and I get it. Every quarterback means so much to their team and organization, but Lamar Jackson literally is why we even talk about the Baltimore Ravens. Him in the passing game, in the running game, his ability to stay healthy down the stretch is huge moving forward if they're going to be successful.
I love Lamar Jackson. I just kind of feel like their defense could find a way to win without him just because they have the ability to take the ball away. I got to go Russell Wilson. I mean, his ability at the end of games to end them well, to find a way to get their playmakers of football. I'm not sure who the receivers are going to be. Obviously, Metcalf is going to be a big part of that. But Russell Wilson is the reason why that team continues to win. Russell Wilson, most important quarterback.
Those are great answers, and those are your 2 leading MVP candidates. But there's one team that is still a Super Bowl contender that is solely reliant on their quarterback. And that's Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. If Mahomes does not look like a league MVP,
surprise.
I'm just going to look away.
Hold on, Greg. Let me ask you a question. Do the Chiefs have any path to victory against good teams that doesn't involve Mahomes playing great?
No, they do not.
There's a chance that if he doesn't play great, just good, that they still can't win.
Oh, absolutely right. No, he's got to play A+ games for them to. That's their barrier for entry right now. They're still, though, right now, a top 3 team in the AFC. They're still, even if it's on the fringes, one of those teams that can win the Super Bowl, but it's all about the best player in football, Patrick Mahomes. That's the answer. It's the answer. It's the right answer.
Moving on to Thursday night football, a monster AFC South matchup on Fox between the 6-4 Colts and the 6-4 Texans. Winner takes first place in the division. Loser will have to claw their way into the playoffs. Greg, the winner of Thursday night football on Fox will be blank.
The Houston Texans. I like them having a bounce-back performance after getting mollywopped by the Baltimore Ravens, and specifically Deshaun Watson, because you have a great player who did not play great for a lot of reasons. That just is not his deal. He's going to bounce back and have a superb game.
I go with the Texans as well. When you get beat up like that next week of practice is a dog. I mean, you're there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the coaches are getting after you. I don't believe in Bill O'Brien as a coach, but I think he's willing to get after his players after getting beat up last week. I'm going Houston Texans.
Well, one thing the Texans do have in their favor is because it's a short week, there's less time for Bill O'Brien's fingerprints to be on this game. It's more about the players, but I'm still going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. I think think Frank Reich is an extraordinary head coach. To me, he is on the very short list for Coach of the Year, along with Sean Payton. You could argue John Harbaugh as well. But I just love so much what the Colts were able to do last week. They might be getting T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron back this week. And the Texans, who pushed all their chips in the middle of the table for this season, trading away 2 1s, a 2 and 2 3s for players for this year. If they lose tonight, they're 6-5, are on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. Forget the AFC South. I like the Colts tonight in a slight upset on Thursday Night Football. Great game.
Nick, what would an MVP mean for LeBron James in year 17?
LeBron would tell you nothing. LeBron would tell you he's done chasing the individual accomplishments. There was a time in his career he was bitter he didn't win that Defensive Player of the Year award. He should have won it. The year he finished second in that balloting, Marc Gasol won it, even though Marc Gasol was not even first-team All-NBA defense. It seemed curious. There was a point in his time in his career he was bitter. He wasn't unanimous league MVP. Everyone voted for LeBron first, and then a writer from Boston voted for Carmelo Anthony to stick it to LeBron. So he was not able to do that before anyone else. Steph Curry ended up doing it a few years later. LeBron says it's all about team accomplishments now, and I believe him. But for basketball historians, of which I consider myself one, and for people who just love the game, it would be one of the most unbelievable accomplishments in modern NBA history. For a guy who's played the 6th most minutes in the history of basketball, for a guy in year 17, coming off the first injury of his career, if at this phase, playing a new position for the first time, with a new head coach, with a totally new roster, for the first time in a decade, the general basketball public having some skepticism about how good is LeBron really, if he responds to that by winning his 5th league MVP, tying Jordan and Russell for second most all time, only behind Kareem, it would, for me, further cement him as the greatest player of all time. And for those who aren't yet on that corner, they would have to start at least acknowledging the evidence is becoming overwhelming.
Yeah, it's just another medallion around his neck. When I look at LeBron James, what's been so impressive is this is different than football or any other sport for that matter. And I'm not knocking any other sport, but the amount of games and the consistency he has to play with and the high level that he has to put forth on every single game to be considered the MVP of the NBA against the elites of the elites, the talent that we see, the Lukas, the James Hardens, the Giannis's, like these guys are new, they're upcoming, and so they're exciting. And so oftentimes we become enamored with what's new instead of really appreciating what has always been. And for LeBron James to be able to do what he's doing in year 17, like, it's so impressive, and kudos to him, because last year, all of what took place and transpired, him not being named or talked about the way he had been in years prior as being one of the best players, or if not the best player in all of basketball, it bothers you as a player. When you've always been on top and you've always been the guy and you move to LA and you have all these other things going on, You've only wanted the one thing to remain the one thing, and it kind of slipped away from him because of injury last year. You're gonna have a season like this, and he's killing it.
And I know, Jenna, you and some other people at times think that the LeBron James discussion gets over the top or it's a little too much. And what I would say is the way he has been evaluated by many has been one of the most ridiculous things I've ever experienced in my career on television or radio. My life as a sports fan. I remember 2 years ago when LeBron, in his final year in Cleveland, had the 2 game winners in the playoffs. And the discussion on this show and others was, has LeBron James finally proven that he's clutch? Forget the fact that prior to that, he already had the NBA record for game winners, for buzzer beaters in the postseason, that he had a 37-12 in a Game 7 of the NBA Finals, that he had hit the clinching free throw in a different Game 7 of the NBA Finals, that he had already dethroned the 73-win Warriors. We were still in year 15 having a referendum. How clutch is this guy really? And then in year 16, he goes to a new team. They're 3rd in the Western Conference when the second best player is who? He's averaging 27, 8, and 9. They are whooping the Golden State Warriors that had a healthy, before they were decimated by injury. And he pops his groin. And immediately the discussion is he went to LA for movies. He's, you know what I mean? He's more focused on things other than basketball. His game shows, Space Jam. He is a distraction to the team because he wants to add talent in Anthony Davis. And if we're being honest, it's not only that he's not the best player in basketball anymore. Check the preseason list going into this year. Nikola Jokic was ahead of him. Everyone had Kawhi ahead of him. And for 12 years prior to the Christmas Day last season, he's the best player in the world. He looked like the best player in the world up until Christmas Day. He tore his groin, came back earlier than expected, and did not have the impact that he had in those final few weeks that he was back after the injury. And everyone's like, well, been waiting to say it. Dude's washed. You know what I mean? He's at a different phase of his career. Comes back this year and decides, for my latest trick, I'll become the best point guard in basketball. And that is what is so, not just the longevity and the accomplishments and the accolades, the way to do it for different teams and different systems and different coaches with different teammates to always be the guy everyone would rather have on their team than whomever their best guy
Even
is.
after game 1 of this year, after game 1,
immediately
people were like,
everyone's
like, well, if that's what it looks like, it's not going to be great.
And in their defense, in game 1, LeBron was bad. And since then, he's been the best player in the league by a decent margin.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern.